Well, welcome back to another fun-filled episode of The High Ground. I'm Reed.
I'm Matt.
And today,
I'm Jeremy.
Today we are here with a very special guest. Is it okay to use the full name? Jeremy Gordon Grinnell? Grinnell. Feel like I'm going to mess that up.
Yeah, Grinnell.
Grinnell.
Rhymes with oh hell.
Hey, you know what? Even easier to remember. Well, to give everybody a little bit of background, we first met Jeremy, it's only about 2 months ago now, isn't it? At Indie PopCon, where it seemed like everybody had a great time, lots of great fan engagement, and Jeremy had enough to tell us a little bit about himself, his background, and his book series, which has been in public works for a while now. So, Jeremy, overall, thanks for coming on. Welcome, and hope we have some fun.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, good times.
Well, just for everybody watching, listening, or what have you, Jeremy, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Whatever you feel like, whatever you're comfortable sharing, just background, inspiration for the books,
Sure.
just really.
Yeah, sure. Well, I most significantly, I was a university professor for about 15 years, taught of all things graduate theology, and that actually stands in the background. My books are not religious, but they stood in the background of how does an academic world function, or a world with scientists and researchers and whatnot. So I'm actually pulling from kind of a background that I'm very familiar with, the academic background. And about 15 years ago, I switched careers, which was not my choice, but like life happens sometimes. And that's kind of when I started into writing. At that point, I started an audiobook industry, or an audiobook company.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of what I switched to, and because I have a theater background, my undergrad degree was in theater, and audiobooking was just sort of a hand in glove fit. It's some of the most interesting acting I've ever done, because you just have your voice. That's pretty much it.
True.
And about that time, I started writing as well, and I had enough presumption to experiment. Well, I was in the middle of my dissertation of writing an 8th Chronicle of Narnia. Well, it was just a lark, I'm thinking I'm writing a dissertation on C.S. Lewis and the religious imagination. What role does the imagination play in religious thought? But how do I know this? He was a remarkable gentleman who, wrote fiction and was a significant academic scholar in medieval Renaissance literature. How am I supposed to climb inside that mind when I have no idea what it's like to build a world and write anything? Right? I mean, so it started just sort of an experiment. And I showed it around, and people said, "Oh, this is." I mean, obviously, you can't do anything with it because it's just fan fiction. But they said it's really good. You should do something. You should continue writing. And so I said, "Well, okay. If I can't do anything in Lewis's world, I'll build my own." And I did. And I really didn't have any stories to tell. I just wanted to build a world with the mechanics that were in my head that made it interesting to me. And the plot actually came along later. And I don't know if other writers have that. If it happens that way for other writers, but for me, it was all about the world building first. And then I said, you know what, there's an interesting story almost baked into this world that now I want to explore.
Well, I mean, it sounds very Tolkien-esque in the sense that, what's the, how's it go? It's like he built actually the language first and then the world from there, and
Yes.
everything kind of just materialized from there. And it's like, I mean, just from the outside looking in, it seems like, just the first thought is, how is that even possible? Because, you think back to, your school days, what do they first say? Oh, you're going to write a story. Okay, maybe start with some characters, maybe start with some kind of action plot, this, that, and the other. And so it really feels like building from the outside in, and it just seems at least, somewhat counterintuitive to at least like what I guess we're brought up being told in grade school.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've talked with enough writers and read enough about the writing process now to realize that writers work differently. Different writers work differently. They're right. For Tolkien, it was all about the world, and specifically the languages. And the languages generated the world and the history and everything. And we probably would never have had books to read if, interestingly enough, C.S. Lewis, who was a good friend of his, had not told him to get off his butt and put the books in print. I mean, they're done. Publish them. So it's a really interesting dynamic there. But I'm under the impression that Stephen King, a name you're probably familiar with,
Just a bit.
Yeah, he actually has an exactly opposite process. From what I understand, he sits down and builds really interesting characters,
Mhm.
like from scratch. Here's these people with these different things. And then he says, well, what would happen if I drop them into this scenario? And then he
Mm.
just sort of turns these people loose, which is remarkable. And it's why King's characters are always so rich. And forgive me, why his endings are usually so pathetic or unsatisfying, because he doesn't know where he's going when he starts the book, but his character work is unbelievable. So different writers apparently have different ways of getting at the task.
Well, and I suppose it makes a lot of sense. I mean, just like I said, from completely outside looking in, I guess, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Everybody kind of has a different process, and it really comes down to, I mean, case in point, whatever works for you. And
Yeah.
and no, it's funny you mentioned that because, to be honest, I think the only Stephen King book I've ever broke down and read was the one he wrote about JFK. Was it 11/23/63?
Which, yeah, very outside
And
his usual. Yeah.
just a bit, but I
Yeah.
think if nothing, I mean, if nothing else, the story. I think I saw random TikTok clips of like the show they did for it. I think that's what kind of like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Oh, that's a book behind it, and so it's somewhat blaspheming, um, but overall, but no, I that makes completely a lot of sense. Um, and like I told you, I think we met in person, and before me and Matt are really big Tolkien fans, and it's just being me and him, just, diving into some of the background and some of the lore. And there's a lot of stuff that's already written that you kind of really have to dig through the annals to
Right.
uncover. But so much there to also kind of left to the imagination, which I mean, granted, the guy was only able to live so long, but I feel like almost some of that is done intentionally to kind of leave a little bit of just enough gap to leave your imagination to run wild a little bit.
That's right.
Do you
And
find
Hollywood
yourself
will take care of the rest.
They'll just
I
change it all.
change it all to see whatever sells their the most
Fill in the
tickets, I
gaps.
guess.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. This is completely out in left field and random, and I think I've brought this up to Matt a few times, and please feel free to if I'm completely wrong, but they always tell you growing up, hey, if there's a book and a movie, you should always read the book then watch the movie. It took me a number of years, but I came to believe the exact opposite, and let me tell you why. So for me, I mean, because what happens when you read a book and then go watch the movie? 9 times out of 10, I feel like you're always left a little bit
Yeah.
disappointed. Like, oh, they left this out. They didn't even touch on this. This person's omitted entirely. But when you flip it, when you watch the movie first and then you read the book, it's like I feel like you're getting the extended edition when you read the book, and there's like so much more to enjoy. And so I feel like the possibility of you being disappointed is a lot lower doing it that way, even though it's like I said, they teach you the complete opposite.
Well, that makes some sense. There's some logic to that. There is a rare occasion where the movie actually succeeds better than the book. There have been a couple of situations where that's the case. Forrest Gump, for example, the book is unreadable.
That's fair.
Absolutely unreadable. He goes into space. He ends up in a rocket ship, and it's bizarre. And they actually turned it into a pretty riveting movie. So there are exceptions, but I think what you said makes a lot of sense in general.
I think I'd heard little tidbits here and there, and Matt, feel free to, I've heard little tidbits. Oh, here's something in the book that wasn't there, but I don't think I ever heard the going to space part. Matt, did you ever?
I've never
you ever
heard
catch
that
one?
before. Never.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Kind of makes me want to read it.
it does.
See?
It's a bizarre piece of writing, but the movie actually, it hit me right at the moment because I had never heard of CGI. I mean, I didn't know that was what was that, the early 90s?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, computers to me were still like mainframes that whatever. Nobody had heard of CGI at that point, and when that whole feather went on the screen at the beginning, I just sat in the movie theater just like, how did they follow that feather around with the camera? I mean, just because it never occurred to me that there was another way to do it. That's a practical effect.
Or even some of those scenes where it's like they had like the archive footage of like Kennedy and some of those historical events, and they somehow superimposed it.
I've got to pee. Yeah, it's great. I love that movie. It was a great movie. Yeah, but entirely outside my genre. So.
I mean, if nothing else, it's always good for an occasional rewatch, or hey, oh, it just happens to be on and you're already an hour through it. Okay, I'll watch a few minutes of it before going about my day. Sorry, another little random thing. I'd come across me and my son about halfway through the first book, and just kind of doing a little bit of looking in. And please tell me if I don't know if this is you that maybe put this out there, or maybe somebody else did at some point in time. But when it said you had mentioned earlier your PhD,
Hmm.
did you were you the one that put it out there? It was like, and I quote, a PhD in moldy old European men.
Yeah, it's the back end. It's the back end copy. Yeah,
Okay, so that was
yeah, and that would be Lewis and Tolkien and all of that. The whole Inklings thing was where I kind of did my work, and yeah.
I feel like that's a book title in and of itself. I mean, it's you just walking around, it just catches the eye.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was, and honestly, it was a bit of tongue in cheek, kind of firmly planted there when I said that or wrote it, because I actually, like it sounds you as well, have great respect for what those men did, but in a time and place where we are very properly interested in marginalized voices and broadening of the cultural circle and things like that, moldy old dead European men are kind of out of fashion, and that is what it is. So, and my book actually opens with a very unsubtle homage to Lewis. I mean, the kid's in a big old dark house, of a Victorian sort of thing. I ended up doing my own thing otherwards, but after that, but the opening, it was very intentionally intended to sort of, give a hello to Lewis.
Well, it seemed like it really flowed well that way too. Excuse me. So hey, more power to you. What was it? And this is something me and Matt have talked about a number of times. Anytime they try to, where do you get the book adaptation, the film adaptation, and I think we go back and forth on obviously Tolkien the most, but we've had the conversation a few times where we felt like there was at least a certain respect done in the sense of, especially when it comes to like the Hobbit movies, when they brought it back, it's like, yes, half the stuff is not even remotely in the book, but it's like, I feel like he wrote it, or he essentially wrote the screenplay so two different people could enjoy it. One being the ones that had never seen the ones that had never read the book in their life, and somehow that helped connect the old series to the new series. And, in that way of adding those, hey, there were, those true events, but obviously certain things that weren't in it. But then also still trying to stay close to the actual book series as it was. Not to put you on the spot, I don't know when's the last time you'd seen it or read it, but just random opinion on that one.
Oh, well, and it is random. I don't have strong opinion on it. I mean, just because, who am I to have an opinion on such a thing? But the Peter Jackson's, the first three, the trilogy, the Fellowship of the Ring, or the Lord of the Rings, I absolutely enjoyed, even with the absence of Tom Bombadil and some little things like that. But I understood what he was doing and why he did it, and the respect for the source material was, I mean, it may have been one of the last franchises where you got a really, really dedicated commitment to the source material. The Hobbit movie, I felt it got a little. It had a few too many Monty Python-esque moments. For me, like when the Goblin King gets slashed, he's like, "Oh, that's for me," and whatever. A little ham-fisted, but you're right. I think his interest in the background source material bloated the movies a touch, but it was there. I mean, it was
Right.
It was in the spirit of what he was doing. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as the first three, and I think that probably marks my trajectory with it. And then you get down to Rings of Power and whatnot, and I kind of fallen off the wagon at that point.
Well,
At least the respect for the source material was clearly there.
right. And Matt, weren't you bringing up? I think it's like 2 or 3 episodes ago, we were going back and forth on Tom Bombadil and how, okay, thank God they brought it back for the TV series, even though it was something that was heavily missed in the Fellowship movie.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated them bringing Tom Bombadil into the live action show. It was something that I think a lot of fans were pretty upset with on the first trilogy, was the absence of Tom Bombadil, which, hearing Peter Jackson's explanation on why, I get it, I understand. You've only got so much time.
Right.
And that's kind of a point that comes and goes and doesn't really progress the story too much. So I get why they omitted him from the original trilogy. But I was glad to see him on screen, and I was relatively pleased with the portrayal and who the actor was. I think they did a pretty good job with him.
Yeah, it is interesting that they left him out, and the irony that, I mean, his whole character is like, what do I have to do with any of this? You know, I predated all. I'm just sort of on my own. So then you drop him into a movie, and by definition, it interrupts the flow because you have a character who cares nothing else about what's going on in the movie because So yeah, the fact that they could get him in other ways, but yeah, I agree. I understand why Peter Jackson had to sort of sideline it, but yeah, it hurt my heart a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Well,
he's just a hard character to explain. Like, you don't know anything about him. He's overly powerful. It's just like, how do you explain this character in a meaningful way, and then how do you just disappear him for no apparent reason? So
it's right up there with the why don't they just take the Eagles, fly the Eagles to Mordor? And it's one of those kinds of things. What are you going to do with that once it's done? Which is really interesting that I had that random thought blow through my mind, because the funniest answer to that question I think I actually heard somebody online did this. It was some movie somewhere where they said, well, actually that's what Gandalf was telling him to do when he fell. When the Balrog took him down, remember his last words were, "Fly, you fools." He was actually telling them to go to the Eagles.
Yeah. And there's actually been, and I got to give credit to people who have a lot more depth or just whatever than I have in a given day. But I mean, there are some guys that'll go in there just super deep dive and find all these little nooks and crannies, and then be able to putting it together in a half-hour long video. Oh, here's why this went to this went to this, and going so much far as to say, oh well, the theory is X, Y, and Z. And it's like, good God. I mean, that was fascinating. I'll sit there and watch every second of it, but damn, how long did that take you?
Yeah, for sure. Remember an old Simpsons episode with Xena Warrior Princess, where she's at a Comic Con and the comic book guy's asking, hey, in episode 34 there was a winged Appaloosa, and then it's a Palomino, and she's like, the wizard did it. The wizard did it. That's my answer to her. Just the wizard did it. Whatever. Okay, guys, that works for me. It works for Tolkien. Why not? A wizard did.
Oh my God! So completely not even this, way beyond even left field. That instantly reminds. Do you ever see that movie Galaxy Quest?
Oh, I love it. Yes, it's been a 15 years, but yeah.
I think it was I think it came out in 2000 or something really close to that, where it's just the perfect epitome of just exactly that. Where it's like, I spent 20 years researching X, Y, and Z, and then going to ask the actor. It's like, I don't fucking know.
God bless Alan Rickman for wearing that thing on his head and really climbing inside that character, man. Props to him.
And what was it? And it's apparently the actual Star Trek cast just loved it to death.
Oh, I
it
believe
was the most ridiculous thing of all time.
I believe it.
But anyways, we've been kind of hitting on it, kicking it around before we move too much further. But and I'll do a screenshot of this later and we'll post it up for a promo. But man, I feel like I'm going to mispronounce this one too. So the book series is called The Relics of, is it Errus or
Errus?
Errus, excuse me. And the first book of the series I have right here, The Flight of the Sky Cricket, available at all fun-filled bookstores and mostly Amazon or wherever fine books are sold.
Pretty much. They can order it for you if they don't have it on the shelves. Yeah.
So, Jeremy, I mean, would you mind just kind of giving us, whatever I guess you think would be easier, just kind of maybe just a rough overview of the first book, maybe just the series in general, just kind of give everybody kind of a, little something to keep them salivating for it.
Yeah, well, one reviewer said it was like a Percy Jackson meets Narnia. So that's one, it's portal fantasy, kids from our world. Well, actually, the three sisters, loosely based on my own three daughters, very loosely, because they all grew up and turned out to be different people than the kids in the book, as will happen. But so they end up getting lost in a world of fairies and dwarfs and mad scientists, fantastic flying machines, what I call a kind of an early steampunk world, meaning you have sort of like the Sky Cricket, which is this flying boat, springs, gears, and whatnot, but you also have knights on horseback. So it's a world in transition. It's also a world tearing itself apart at the seams, because there's prophecies written on the wall in the holy city that appear to be starting to come true, but nobody believes in them anymore. And those prophecies seem to somehow relate to these three girls who have found themselves into this world, but there's no connection between them. So that's kind of the slow mystery burn throughout the series. I call it the Voldemort thing, right? Like in Harry Potter, Voldemort, he's in the first book, but it's really about Harry and the adventures like that. But by the time you get to book 4, he takes over the whole thing. It's all about, Voldemort and Harry. Well, that's kind of the thing. So the first couple of books are basically the world building, the girls finding themselves in this world where everything they think is mythological or is mythological in our world, fairies and dwarfs, are hard science in that world. They write dissertations and academic books on how, on the different dwarf clans and how fairies reproduce and whatnot. So it's a really interesting space to play with ideas of truth, what's real, what's not. Can what is myth in one world be fact in another, or vice versa? And again, you can hear kind of Lewis's religious imagination kind of thing. Again, I'm kind of spinning around in the back there. So I've had a lot of fun building basically the national dynamics. We've got, we have a couple of different countries that in this world that are all kind of in chaos because these prophecies coming true around them. A war which has been taking place between the nations in this world for 500 years. And that has to kind of get answered and addressed. And they find themselves just in the middle of this. The whole world is built around a pantheon of gods and goddesses. There's the Percy Jackson piece that are original. And a kind of an earth, air, fire, water matrix where all of the mythological creatures are actually under the auspices of one of the gods who represent their element. So fairies, of course, in being attached to the air goddess, and mermaids to the sea goddess, dwarfs to the earth god, that sort of thing. And they can't leave their own element. So the surface of the world is common to all, but underground, above ground, the waters, the fires, they all have their own place. So the kids are trying to navigate through this world where any given campfire could give birth to a fire salamander or whatever. So there's a lot of caution, that the people of this world have to take care of because natural disasters produce these mythological creatures, some innocent and cute, fuzzy, some not so much. So that's kind of the dynamic that the world is playing on. I worked really hard not to introduce magic. People always say, "Oh, so it's magic." I'm like, well, maybe, sure. But I actually am trying to play more mythology and science. I really didn't want unexplained phenomenon. I wanted all the mythological, the big magical phenomenon in this world to actually be established by the mechanics of that world. So that's why we spent so much time but starting in 2011, building the world. We actually didn't publish Sky Cricket until 2019. So what is that? 7 years, 8 years of world building and then crafting the various narratives to get us to the end point.
It's almost like you got to build like an entire rule book for yourself ahead of time to where it's okay. If you're going to try to ground it as much in a combination of science and actual, pre-existing lore, but then also, the things that you're, creating from scratch essentially, are consistent enough to where you don't get, say, 2 months down the line and then you write something that's actually contradictory. Then
oh yes, and I have written myself into corners. You can actually find there's a first edition of Sky Cricket out there. I was using which is actually my audiobooking name, Gordon Greenhill. At the time, I was just doing my audiobooks and everything under that. And then it started to get confusing on Amazon. Is he the narrator, the author, who is he? So I ended up having to kind of divide. So you can actually still find a first edition of Gordon Greenhill Sky Cricket floating around out there that actually has some significant continuity errors for that reason. So we actually had to release a second edition to fix that. They were minor. A casual reader wouldn't have ever seen them, but they were keeping me up at night. So we ended up releasing it for exactly that reason. But I'll say this: your most interesting work, or at least my most interesting work, seems to happen the tighter the corner gets. The more I get myself in a box, now I have to begin thinking creatively how to get out of it. And I'm reminded of Chuck Jones, the famous Warner Brothers director, did a lot of the Warner Brothers cartoons. He used to say that the key to making good cartoons is making it hard on yourself by having rules, having stable character personalities, right? Because that paints you into a box. There's things these characters can and cannot do because of the character you've given them, but that's where your interesting work comes, because now you get to problem solve. So like in the Roadrunner, they had these rules that they actually didn't follow very well, but the Roadrunner never, goes after the coyote. It's always the reverse. The coyote is always hoisted on his own petard, so to speak. It's never the Roadrunner that does it, right? That was a rule they followed, even though it got them into some tight corners. They then had to think creatively to get their way out. And I think that just creates authenticity. When you have to find a solution that fits the rules of the world that you've built, that's a lot more interesting to the reader, to the writer as well, than just sort of, we're just going to change the rule in this case or come up with an exception or just ignore it, which you will often find. Harry Potter struggles with that in the later books.
Right.
Because the first books are so loose and beautiful. They're love that. My first books in that series are the best, I think, because she doesn't worry about the rules. But by the time she gets further into the series, there's so many rules about the magic that it becomes hard to apply it consistently, and you get lost in the details, and it bounces the reader out of the narrative at times.
Well, and it's, I mean, to your comment, as you kind of like box yourself in a way, you're almost unintentionally building yourself a brand too. I mean, if you create one that stands the test of time, and like, okay, yes, readers, watchers, whatever your medium is, they come to expect certain things like, oh, here's how it's done. Here is what this looks like. And it's almost like a weird set of expectations in a positive way. It's where it's almost, and I'm sure everybody kind of has their own, like, if I say comfort movie or comfort show, hey, somebody put on the background if I can have a rough day. And it's like, okay, I go to that because I know what to expect. I know the rules, so to speak. Yeah. Yep. And it just kind of creates that very unique just aspect that really just brings it home for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know, your viewers are going to have various religious backgrounds, but having grown up in the religious background, I did, that was the explanation for why everyone always wanted the old hymns. They always want the old hymns, sing the old hymns. Why? Because they're better? No, they're just familiar. They're comforting. They're like comfort music. People want to have what they know, and I don't fault them for that.
They haven't memorized.
Yeah, it's right. Well, it's true. And there are tropes that if you begin, there are tropes you can violate, and then there are tropes that if you do, you're writing in a different genre, and your readers won't know what's going on. And it's like learning to play the piano, right? You got to learn the rules, the keys, and the different whatever stuff, so that you know which ones you can break and become a real concert pianist. Right? It's like there's something like that going on too.
Well, and I would say that I'd say that's pretty much of anything. I mean, yes. I mean, once you kind of the fundamentals, the basics. Yep. Okay, once you got that down, then you can have all sorts of fun with it.
That's where the real art happens. That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And yeah, just like I said, just about anything. Well, I guess I did have a point here, and I guess I kind of led into it a little bit. But Jeremy, slightly again off in left field, if you could, whether it be book, movie, TV show, if you had to say, if you had one of those kind of like comfort shows or kind of just one that, hey, you could always throw on to make you feel better. Hey, if you're having an off day, what would be for you?
For shows?
Not to put you on the spot.
No. I'm just a little embarrassed to say it. The first 9 seasons of The Simpsons.
Oh, there's nothing embarrassing about that.
Yeah.
No.
My kids are currently going through all those right now, and they're loving them.
I've tried. My kids don't get it. I mean, they seriously, they're like, what? Why do you like this? I don't get it. And I'm like, I can't figure it. So, or another one is Firefly. Yeah, which died too soon. So that one, my wife and I actually go back, probably watch that every 6-8 months. We'll just watch all 11, 12, whatever their episodes. And yeah, it's familiar and it lasts.
Well, I promise I'll jump on Firefly in a second, but I think I really want to say that, I mean, the first 9, 10 seasons of The Simpsons, I really feel like, I mean, after a while they had to start changing gears, because I feel like that's right around the time you start seeing shows like Family Guy and kind of all these other ones kind of slowly pop up into space. And to where, maybe that's the crutch of it, where, okay, once these all start showing up, that maybe inadvertently start influencing the show a little bit. And so it's, maybe they start veering away from whatever that original formula was.
Yeah. Well, I remember
the humor changed.
The animation changed. They went to more of a digital format, and you can feel that it feels less home. I mean, these are all my opinions, and you feel free to disagree, but yeah, I felt like go back to the Chuck Jones comment. The first, dozen seasons or so, the Simpsons characters are extremely stable. You know what you're going to get from every single one of them. And that's what makes them funny and reliable and predictable. And you feel like you're meeting real people, because real people are reasonably consistent in their personalities.
Sure.
After that, I really feel like they just slowly began to anything for the laugh, which is really what you do get in kind of Family Guy, American Dad.
Right.
Some of those.
There's nothing too ridiculous.
Right. No, the Lady Gaga episode. If it had been a movie theater, I'd have walked out. It was almost unwatchable. No offense to Lady Gaga, bless her, but it doesn't. Yeah, I after that it just got. Yeah, there has to be stability in a character for the character to work. If they begin to act randomly outside, when they retconned Skinner there in the middle of season 9, that was kind of my jump the shark moment. Or Homer on a nuclear submarine. It began to get really strange. But
well, I'll tell you what. I feel like there is a little bit of room for this, and feel free to disagree with me. But I mean, you think of shows like Simpsons, Family Guy, etc., where there's like these random big events that happen that should like change the entire universe of the show. But it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure what the technical term for it is. It's like each episode is like for the most part self-contained, to where it's like the world could end in one episode. And then next week episode,
and they rebuild.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, and that's some of that's the genre of animation, the cartoon. You can do that, and nobody pays attention because you enjoy it,
right?
Yeah,
it's in a way, it's almost like it kind of adds to that comfort show medium where it's like you just flip to a random episode in the season and get a laugh, and you don't have to have this context.
Yep. Yeah, you actually you walk into it with some sense of context because you've seen other episodes, and again, if the characters are stable and things like that, you're right. You can drop into pretty much anywhere and have a sense of what's going on. Yeah.
What about you, Matt? I think we touched on it briefly. I don't think I've ever asked you that question. Like if you're sitting at home, obviously apart from some of the obvious ones, I think it changes every like 6 to 12 months. I mean, just with kids around the house. But what's your go-to?
Well, I'm going to jump back onto the Simpsons wagon real quick. That's not my answer. Just had a couple points. I think the biggest thing with Simpsons, at least for Reed and I, a big nostalgia part of The Simpsons was it came on Friday nights.
Oh, yeah.
We sat down with our parents, with our siblings. We sat down, we watched The Simpsons, and that was kind of so when we go back and watch Simpsons, that's kind of the feeling we get is as a kid, we're sitting with our mom, our dad, our siblings. We're sitting down, we're watching all these different cartoons, these animated shows. Where nowadays it's streamed, and our kids don't get that same feeling. To them,
right? To have
it's
to
just
wait
another
for
show,
right?
And I think that's kind of a downfall for most new shows coming out. Is they're either releasing the entire series all at once, or they're purposely making you wait a week. But I don't feel it's the same. It doesn't feel the same. Knowing that you can just come back and watch it anytime. So you're not sitting down Friday at 7:30 on the dot to watch a show. You can just watch it whenever you want. And I think that's kind of going to be a downfall for most series nowadays is just not having that structure, that family structure behind the show itself, whether that was intended or not, or just by design. I'm not sure.
I'm going to give away my age here, but I have exactly that same phenomenon with shows like MASH, Pappy Boyington and Black Sheep Squadron, because those were the shows that in my childhood that we would sit down and as a family and watch. And exactly the same thing. I can sit down in a hotel somewhere and flip it on, and if MASH is on the cable, whatever, it doesn't matter what the episode is. I could tell you exactly what's going on because it's baked into my personality.
Yeah, it's something the kids they just can't understand. They don't have that same feeling sitting down and watching. And to them, it's just another show.
Right, and they've got a bazillion others that are just like it on other that they can have instantly. And what's wrong with this generation? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
now they get hung up on fewer things, than we do, perhaps. But they don't even. My kids don't even understand. I explain it to them about the whole waiting for the show on Saturday night or whatever, and they're like, "Well, why? Why would you wait?" Or like running to the bathroom in the commercial and hoping to get back before it starts. Why didn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Because this was the latter half of the 20th century, folks.
Yeah, commercials were either a hindrance or a blessing.
Right, long enough to make a bag of popcorn.
Yep. But no, I would say my answer to your question, Reed. And this is kind of weird and nerdy. I'm not exactly sure the reasoning, but if I'm having a bad day, stressed out, I need something to just calm down. I'm going to go to a History Channel show, probably Ancient Aliens. Something that I can always just flip on. I say it'll put me to sleep, but it's not because it's boring. It is fascinating stuff. It's just I'll sit there long enough and I'll fall asleep, but it's something that relaxes me well enough that I will go to sleep. I know that's not I guess it's kind of fantasy, but not in the same type of fantasy we're talking about. But it'll be something on the History Channel for me,
Interesting.
which is weird.
I mean, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I personally have two answers. One's not a comfort show, but I think it's strictly because it's on HBO Max, and for whatever reason, HBO Max is the one where if you leave it playing, it will never stop. It doesn't leave that. Are you still watching, or cut off if you don't press a button? It'll just keep playing. And because a lot of my kids are like, they got to have something on in the background to help them fall asleep, and okay, that's they'll throw on The Big Bang Theory or something to where it's like, okay, it just keeps playing the episode continuously till they fall asleep. But this is going to be a completely off genre too, but I think it changes every 6 months to a year. But I think right now, just random, okay, I have no idea what else to watch, I'll just have something in the background that I can laugh at. I'll throw on Archer, of all things.
Interesting. That's a very interesting one.
It's one of the most ridiculous shows of all, but I don't know.
It's like Family Guy met Robot Chicken.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it. That's interesting. Okay.
It's if nothing else, it's worth a quick YouTube clip. It's
Archer.
Stupid, ridiculous, and
my brain went immediately to Captain Archer of Enterprise. And I'm like, well, that wasn't the name of the show.
That was a good show too. That's
I enjoyed it.
I think I rewatched that twice in deployment. What was I going to say? Anyways. Well, I think we've covered some bits and pieces of your films, our authors, and that sort of thing. I can't talk today. As we mentioned before, we met you at PopCon, Jeremy. Do you typically go around to other events like that, or do you travel around a lot, or?
Yeah, I'll do a dozen or so of the Comic Con type things a year, and then far too many like craft shows and school thing, whatever. But I'm basically Midwest. I'm located. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Kind of.
Nice.
Michiganders were here, and it's pretty much anything within a 5 to 6 hour radius. I have a buddy who lives in Indianapolis who lets me crash on his couch, and that's key for when you're doing what I do, because hotel stays just basically wreck your. Yep. You walk out even. You don't.
I've got one of those buddies in Indianapolis too.
Yep, that's great. So I got a kid who lives in Minneapolis, so I can go there. My parents are south of Ann Arbor, so I hit the Toledo shows.
Nice.
But I've done as far south as Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Traverse City. I'd love to do C2E2 in Chicago, but I'm just too small of a shop to justify the table cost.
Sure.
At this point, when I get another dozen books out, well, maybe. But so that's kind of I'm generally a Midwest.
So here's a question. Here's a big question for you. When can we expect your first movie?
If it's up to me, next year. No,
nice.
Yeah, no, I'd love. But then again, I have my high moral moments where I'm like, doing the Bill Watterson, Calvin and Hobbes things. Like, no, I'm not letting them take my baby and butcher it and turn it into whatever. And then I'm like, yeah, but I could pay for 3 girls' college educations with that checks. So it is. It's a little of 6, 7 kind of thing. Sorry, you can tell I got a 13-year-old. So I would love to talk to a movie. In fact, where was I? I was at the last one I was at. Really cool Comic-Con in Toledo, and I actually I forgot the guy's name because I didn't even know he was a guy. The guy who created and owns the rights to Deadpool.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, that guy, really nice. He was just walking around talking to people. I gave him a copy of my book, and he said, "Oh, I'm definitely going to read this." And I thanked him, knowing that he probably would never read it. But I would love to have somebody like him, look it over and go, "This could work," because I wrote the book, at least in my mind, as an audiobook narrator. I am writing for how it sounds.
Sure.
Like that's part of one of my things is the language game for me that I don't know if a lot of authors even think about, because they're not audiobook narrators, they're authors. But for me, I'm like the language game of how the rhythm flows, and is this sentence is iambic pentameter with 5 whatever. I'm playing that game all the time because I know how it's going to sound. But I don't know if I've written it in such a way that a screenplay writer would have the same attraction. I'd like to think so, but I don't know enough screenwriters I'm a long way from Hollywood.
Well, just kind of looking at some of the cover artwork and some of the artwork surrounding the series. I mean, I feel like I mean, you could almost, I mean, if you wanted to, you could almost even like looking into whether it be, additional artists or potential, like you maybe, low name animators, and maybe if nothing else, just, maybe getting a better sense of, oh, here's what maybe something of it could look like, kind of flowing from chapter to chapter, story to story, and just, if nothing else, creating a better visual. And I feel like, it's kind of a stepping stone to, oh, we could take this and turn it into, okay, even like a quick, okay, you pick a great chapter of, favorite chapter. It's like, oh, here's a animated version of what this looks like. And if nothing else, have it serve as like a selling point to, hey, here's
I would,
what the,
yeah, my knowledge base is so small when it comes to that. Remember, I'm a former academic, so I have absolutely no idea how the world works.
Well, there's a lot of people on YouTube that are doing various almost like fan fiction AI generated videos of like different fantasy scenarios, Darth Vader versus Gandalf and things like that, and they're putting it into an AI generated video, and that's maybe something you could look at hooking up with one of those AI generated guys on YouTube that can generate one of your chapters to see visually how it would come out.
No, that's a really interesting idea. I have a conflicted feeling about the idea of AI and authorship. I mean, because that's a whole separate conversation.
Sure,
but
sure.
that might actually be a really fascinating use of it. Yeah, that I hadn't even thought about that. That's a really good idea.
Well, and just to call it a shameless plug, and we can talk more afterwards if you want. But one of the me and Matt, our first event before the PopCon event, we went to this Fallout fan kind of a mini con event in Shelbyville, Indiana. And apparently, one thing led to another, and apparently the mayor of Shelbyville showed up and talked to the organizers. Said, "Hey, this went really well. You had like a crap ton of people show out, and I basically want you to do this again in August, but I'm going to make it so you have between about 15 and 20, if not 30,000 people in the small town of Shelbyville, Indiana, come, and I'm going to help you basically put it together and run it." Long story short, this is actually happening. I don't know what your schedule looks like in the. Be soon before you know it, but I want to say I think it's August 8th off the top of my head, to where, and obviously I think the stand, or whatever the technical term is, the booth, not booth rental, but whatever the vendor.
The table cost,
or table cost, really beyond reasonable, just because of the smallness of the event. But if nothing else, I know I've been talking with the organizer pretty close. Guy's name's Chris, and to my knowledge, I want to say there's at least well over a dozen animators and artists that are actually planning on being there itself. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know what your schedule is, if you'd even be able to, but if nothing else, networking with people that do exactly what we were just talking about.
And that's good, because I really don't. I network with basically graphic artists, or just like stable artists at this point, because I'm always looking for a cover artist for my next project or whatever. But it never occurred to me to go that way. It's funny. My editor actually put me in touch with Leafspeth. That's her working name. She lives in Nebraska. I've never even met her. It's all been digitally. But and before she did Sky Cricket, she basically did greeting cards. That was her thing. She'd never done a book cover before, which was good for me and good for her, because right, exactly. And she's just done such beautiful work for me. She produces a full watercolor painting like this, that then she'll take the Kinkos and do a high resolution scan and send it to my cover designer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she just does fantastic work for me. So anybody out there looking for good cover art, go to my website under the, about the author, and you'll find a link to Leafspeth's work, and, reach out to her. She does great work.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. But again, it's one vision, and having other artists, do different things. I've been asked multiple times about a graphic novel version, which would work very easily. I mean, the book is visual enough where it would work very easily. It's just, I don't know how that whole system works, because you've got an artist out there who's basically tying his wagon to your success, and I feel a little nervous about asking someone to pony up all of that time and resources for to sell a dozen copies or whatever.
Well, I know, and have you worked with? And sorry, this I know it's kind of off in left field again. I think this entire I think that's going to be the title of this whole episode. Anyways, And I know because my wife has recently gotten into a similar thing and through Amazon's service ACX, which I know they
Oh yeah.
help connect authors and all that stuff.
Yep.
I feel like there's got to be a version out there where it's a similar thing, but it's with authors and like illustrators, where you'd almost have like illustrators bid or like hey, here's what my
Yeah.
thoughts would be, and then
Fiverr was supposed to work something like that, and then this becomes kind of something else. But Fiverr used to be fiverr.com.
Mhm.
That used to be a place where you could go and get really cheap graphic work done. A lot of people internationally, like you could find somebody in Bangladesh who would design your cover of your book for $5 or whatever,
Sure.
which to them was big money and nothing to you, right? But that's again, I don't know. I just haven't thought about it. It's beyond, your brain has so much space, and right now my editor's retiring, so I'm kind of in the throes of trying to figure out how to get book 4 out. It's basically done. I don't know where to send it. So I'm working with that struggle right now. Otherwise, it would be out already. But
Sure.
Yeah, life.
Well, and I was going to kind of throw in the comment too. Just, kind of looking at some of the cover art, it almost seemed like it was somewhere inspired between almost like a 10% a Tim Burton feel, but also like it's almost like the characters kind of illustrate almost like in a puppet kind of fashion. I could be.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that the kind of what's going
I don't.
for?
And again, I just did the description and said, amaze, just surprise me, and she did, and so I don't know where she draws her inspirations from, and because people like, well, that's not anime, and I'm like, because I'm at a Comic Con, I'm like, no, it's not, and I didn't want anime because everybody's doing anime right now. All the covers look like anime covers. And
I'm trying not to blend in.
It's right. Well, yeah, you want to kind of stand out a little bit, but and and even the titles that is not a font. That is a graphic that she draws as a separate like ping, JPEG, whatever.
Yeah.
And that we can use. So it's not even a font. She actually, does that as a piece of art.
That just makes it more unique. Just
it's
you can't get anywhere
wonderful.
else.
Yeah, you can't. I'm so happy with her, and I want to stay with her for all the volumes that I can. We'll see.
No, hey, it really seems to be working out for you. And like I said, just with the uniqueness of the characters, the design, the lettering, it's all just like you said, can't really get it anywhere else. And hey, in the time of where everybody is trying to do something and everything's kind of running together, hey, it feels like you genuinely created something that stood out.
And it's really never been easier to get. You can take a Word document, to KDP, Kindle Publishing Direct, whatever, through Amazon, and you can have a book up there tomorrow for no money out of your pocket.
Right.
And it will look like it. And you'll sell one copy, right? So there's a sense that these days you can produce a book for $0, or you can drop 25 grand, in between an editor and then a copy editor, and then a line editor, and then a cover artist, and a cover designer, and an interior designer. You can go right down the line. And so there's this spectrum that every author these days, independent author, has to try to figure out, where am I going to position myself where I get the biggest bang for the buck, but don't bankrupt myself. There's an ROI, a return on investment, somewhere in that mix. If you want a book that actually looks like something that Tor or Bantam or HarperCollins would produce.
Sure.
And we've really worked hard to try to produce that. So I take pride in the fact that my books would be indistinguishable from anything that HarperCollins would produce.
Well, and I feel like kind of what you're doing, at least like kind of what you've told us, is really, the thing is that's going to make the difference. Like you said, anybody can go and kind of do whatever they're doing today, just with the available companies, technology, et cetera, et cetera. But really, just putting yourself out there, whether it be at the events, whether it be through different independent social media, and just really just essentially actively setting yourself apart to where you're not trying to blend in with everybody else, but and even just random conversations like this, where it's like, oh, I know this person who knows this person who's this person. Here's so and so's phone number. Next thing you know, fast forward 5 months, like, oh, this became a huge thing because I randomly talked to this person. Yeah,
that's it. It's not what you know; it's who you know.
Funny enough.
Yeah, it really is. So, thank you. I appreciate you guys giving me a voice.
No, it's been great having you on. Appreciate the Monday night at coming up on 8:00 now.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you're right, Jeremy, we'll go ahead and wrap this segment up. I'm going to throw this in this screenshot one more time. Actually, if you want to, feel free to plug any and all your titles if you'd like, Jeremy, and we'll
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
if-
sure.
and we'll talk afterwards, and we can make sure I have all the links to all the purchases, but also your you said your artist, if she has a link too, but I can just throw it all in there too.
That's in there too. Yep, yep. So I mean, you saw the first cover. We're actually just released hardcovers. They're actually now my show in Lansing, and next month will be the first one we've had the hardcovers for. But they're identical in every way, just a little sturdier. So
Sure.
Fly to the Sky Cricket. It's kind of the launch where everything gets off, and then the second one, Plight of the Roken Boy, where the three girls, meet an orphan boy trying to find his mom, and hilarity ensues. And the third one, Might of the Divided City. You'll probably see what's going on there with the titles, Flight, Might, and you can guess. You've got a limited number of options on the fourth title. Well, and in this one, the sisters get separated, so there's what's going to happen there. And throughout the whole series, they're beginning to suspect that something in their own family history is connected to that world. So that's kind of what you begin to see develop. And the easiest way to get a hold of them, if you can go to the relicsoferrus.com website. If you order that, which is directly from me, if you order them directly from me, they'll come signed. And you can even give me a script, whatever you want me to write. Actually, your cheapest way to get them is probably Amazon. They run sales without telling me, which is fine. I don't care. And this is an important point because people need to know this. People often ask, I get it. I know. I talk to other indie authors that get this well. People are like, well, I want to support the author, so I want to buy from you. Well, understand, in a sense, we win either way. If
Sure.
you buy from me, that the royalties I keep, you supported me, every dollar you spend goes directly to the, whatever. But when you buy from Amazon, it boosts the algorithm. So
Right,
that
right.
Amazon then shows my book to more people. Right. So you can't go wrong. Don't feel
Well,
like
yeah,
buying from
it's-
Amazon's buying from the bad guy, because you're helping the author in a different way. And in a perfect world, you'd get people doing both.
Well, it's like when they say, "Hey, if you can't buy, write a review or something like that, to where it helps, if nothing else, like you
Yes.
said, boost awareness, boost the algorithm, and hey, get you out there even more."
That's right. So yeah, I tell people not to, not fret over the sort of the ethics of buying from Amazon. No, that still helps. That's still good.
Well, you heard it here.
There you go.
Well, Jeremy, thanks a lot for coming on.
My
It's great
delight.
to have you. Be sure to check out Jeremy and all of his collected works, and we'll be sure to put it out there for anybody else. And for all of us here at the High Ground, be sure to stay nerdy, stay knowledgeable.
And always take the high ground.
See you next time.